Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. Of course, you can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad. So is Kevin Feige coming over to run the DCEU? I have heard whispers that this is the plan. I've been told that David Zaslav, the CEO of Warner Discovery, as he will be, wants to get the best people in the most important positions. I have hinted on Twitter before about Bob Iger, having, a consultant's role over at Warner Discovery. I don't know if that's a thing, but I suspect it's a thing. So how do I feel about Kevin Feige running the DCEU? I'd love to know how you would feel about that. I know a lot of Snyder fans would be unhappy. I don't think that Kevin Feige would be resistant, by the way, of bringing in Snyder to either have his own pocket universe to restore the Snyderverse. But those decisions will be, made by Zaslav and Warner Discovery independently anyway. Zaslav has spoken to Zach. I don't mind taking people's leftovers, whether it's people's women or good stuff. So I wouldn't be opposed to Kevin Feige coming over to run the DCEU. But I personally think that this has been a thing for a very long time, from the moment that James Gunn joined the DCEU. Did you ever imagine a day where James Gunn would be making DCEU content? I bet you don't. So let's give a little bit of history here. James Gunn was a big MCU man. He started the Guardians of the Galaxy. He was going to do Volume 3. Some people, I think some alt-rights, found some offensive jokes on Twitter from 8-10 years ago. They exposed him, and then Disney reactively fired him immediately because they're a company that likes, to appeal to children and families. So jokes about what he was joking about were they weren't a good look for the company, but they could have dealt with it in a different way. I can tell you that James Gunn still hasn't got over them firing him. That's why he's going to finish Guardians Volume 3 and leave them forever and work with the DCEU in the immediate future. I can also tell you that Kevin Feige wasn't happy about this situation. He was very angry and tried everything he could to get Gunn back. But Gunn was clever. He used strong-arm tactics, and quite right too. He owned the script for Guardians 3. He wasn't going to allow them to use that script with another director. Also, nearly all of the cast, if not all of the cast, supported James Gunn and started to say they wouldn't work on Volume 3 unless James was back on board. So James came back, not because Disney realised they made a mistake, because they didn't have a choice. And we've seen other things happen between Disney, for example, and MCU actors. For example, the Scarlett Johansson situation with the day and date of Black Widow. Although they came to some amicable arrangement and she said some nice things about working with them in the future, she's not happy. James Gunn wasn't happy. And Kevin Feige is, I don't believe, happy working for Disney. He has to make a lot of stupid statements like, explaining why Doctor Strange wasn't in WandaVision, because apparently it wouldn't be great for a white man to turn up on a woman's patch. I mean, the extreme left have got some, weird logic, if you ask me. But anyway, I think that actually Feige has done as much as he can with the MCU. So I would be totally fine with this. Now, I understand why some people would be upset with this thing happening. At the end of the day, Kevin Feige is a clever guy. He has put the most successful franchise together. No one has been able to produce this many films in one franchise and make any film successful just because it has the MCU stamp on it. It's genius. Any studio would want this. But would this be a good thing for DC live action? Well, I've always felt that Walter Hamada was just there temporarily anyway. Walter Hamada came in to steady the ship. Now, it's very interesting if you look at the multiverse strategy, considering that Feige has got his own multiverse strategy. You could even suspect that maybe secretly Kevin Feige is working with the DCEU already. As I said, from the moment James Gunn came over, I was suspicious that Kevin Feige would eventually come with him. So yes, I would be more than happy about this, because he's a guy that could make things better, that could connect the universe of the DC live action in a huge way. Now, I think there would have to be some arrangement between Matt Reeves and Warner Discovery that Kevin doesn't get involved with Matt Reeves' Earth 2, and I think that's perfectly fine. You know, the Batman is coming. I've seen it. It's a fantastic movie. It's one of the best CBMs ever made. It goes up there for me alongside Joker. It's that type of film. It's sensational. But yeah, I feel that Kevin Feige would be great for the DC Extended Universe, and who knows if he already hasn't got his hands on it already. Do I think this is realistic? Yes, I do. I actually think it's going to happen. I've actually thought that this is going to happen for a very, very long time. So these rumours and these leaks reaching me don't surprise me. No one's going to admit to this. But as I say, from the moment James Gunn was coming, I felt Kevin Feige was coming. You know, you go over there, James, and I'll be with you as soon as possible. You know, stranger things have happened. And I notice people discounting things and saying, well, that won't happen and that won't happen. And, you know, it's entirely interesting. Now, I mentioned to you, kind of changing the subject for a moment, you know, a guy who apparently worked on the Flash movie saying that he saw Cavill and Ben Affleck in a scene together in the Flash movie. Now, someone posted their IMDb on Twitter, and yeah, it looks like it clarifies that this guy actually does work on films, different films, not necessarily all the time on Warner Brothers. So that's interesting as well. And what does that say about, you know, My Time to Shine and Grace Randolph's, you know, stances saying that Cavill wasn't even going to be involved in the Flash movie and Supergirl was going to replace him? First of all, that doesn't make any sense. Supergirl doesn't replace Superman. Supergirl plays her own role. How sexist is that, to say that Supergirl is going to replace a male character? You know, that doesn't even make sense, that Batgirl is going to replace Batman when Michael Keaton's there. You know, even if Batfleck's not going to be involved anymore, you know, Keaton's Batman would be in, maybe even the leader of the new look Justice League. We're going to have to wait and see for that. But when you see what's going on with the DCEU now, when we look at Peacemaker and we see the Justice League turn up, this has Kevin Feige's stamp all over it. So it wouldn't surprise me if he's not already working with the DCEU. Could Kevin Feige potentially have his hands on Lucasfilm and the MCU, remain with the MCU, and come in with the DCEU? I mean, I don't know. I mean, the guy's a workaholic. I suppose it could be a thing. It would be very difficult for him to run everything, but I think that Warner Brothers wouldn't be opposed to that. Now, in terms of him leaving the MCU, that wouldn't surprise me either. So we're going to have to wait and see what happens here. So I do believe Kevin Feige will eventually run the DC Extended Universe. I do think it would be a good thing. I know that all of you, not all of you, but some of you would be opposed to this. But I think it's a good thing. Listen, when there's a great footballer at another club, even if it's at your enemies, you would want that footballer, even if you never admit that. So when he comes there scoring goals for you, you're going to be happy. Kevin Feige has done something sensational. Kevin Feige, it doesn't necessarily produce great movies. He produces entertaining movies. And that's the difference. But if you're going to have a DC Extended Universe in the multiverse strategy and Feige's in charge of that, then you've got Matt Reeves and Todd Phillips actually making great movies at WB for DC. You're going to have the best of both worlds, aren't you? So I would support this. This would cause an eruption in DC fandom, but I don't care. I want the best people working on DC live action. This has been the DCEU Daily. I'm Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. Like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss this perfection, as I call it. And I'll be back tomorrow with even more DCEU Daily. But please, 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 if you like the video, please press like. It's so important. Don't just leave the video. And if you like me and if you want to support me, even if my videos are boring to you, please watch the entire video. It matters in my stats. So please, if you like me, like the video. If you want me to grow as a YouTuber, please watch the entire video. It's very important. So until the next video, which I'm going to record very soon, about the funeral that was shot in Batgirl, and I'm going to tell you whose funeral I think that is in the next video. Goodbye, au revoir, and auf Wiedersehen.